Have you ever felt like you're not alone? Like there's something there? Something otherworldly? Like doors opening by themselves? Objects moving with no explanation? Today we will be diving into a couple haunted house stories that will seriously make you question. Are we alone? Hello and welcome to Haunted. Turn the lights low, sit back, relax, and enjoy these stories. Last night I was studying and felt tired. I was just watching a lecture, so I decided to lay down on the bed while watching it. After a while, I heard strange knocks on my room's door. The door was ajar in the beginning, and now it was half open. I thought it might be part of the lecture's audio, so I replayed that bit again. But there wasn't any knocking in the lecture. Not thinking much of it, I continued watching the lecture when suddenly the door slammed shut. This is when I started to feel a little suspicious. I thought maybe it's just the wind, so I got out of bed and engaged the door stopper. It's one of those stoppers that jams between the door and the hinge, making it physically impossible to close the door without disengaging the stopper. Then I went back to the bed. After a while, the door slammed shut again. This freaked me out. I quickly got out of bed, turned on a flashlight, and went to look around. I didn't see anything strange, so I closed the lecture and immediately went to sleep. In the morning, I asked my sister if she heard any noises, and she too said she heard doors slamming. I'm sure this isn't a prank, as it was just me and my sister in the house at the time, and my sister is severely injured in the foot. Injured to the point where she can't even stand up by herself. I'm now terrified to go to sleep today. What should I do? When I was younger, I'd go visit my grandparents all the time. They lived in a one-floor house with an unfurnished basement. I never liked it down there. It felt small for such a big basement. There was a little door down there that was for storage, and I always got a horrible feeling when going close to it. And let me add that this was a newer house that was about 6 years. Now, during the time I was about 6 or 7, I felt so uncomfortable going down there even when I was with someone. I didn't like it. I remember going down there with my grandma to help with something. She had to run upstairs because someone rang the doorbell. She said she would be right back, even though she knew how I felt about being alone down there. But I nodded and said okay. She was gone and I was alone, and I started to get a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. I didn't move and didn't want to. Even though the lights were on now, this is where everything started happening, and it still gives me chills. The lights started to flicker and I began to hear noises. It sounded like talking, and it was not coming from upstairs, but in the storage room. I heard someone say my name. Here is the part that freaks me out the most. The voice sounded like my grandma. I was confused as hell. How am I hearing her when she is upstairs? I didn't want to move, but me being the curious one I am, started moving towards the storage room door. The closer I got, worse the bad feeling came. When I got to the door, the lights turned off in the basement. I wanted to run upstairs and hide, go somewhere that wasn't in the basement. I heard my name again for the second time. My grandma's voice asking me to open the door, to help her. So I did, and I regret it. I couldn't see anything. It was pitch black. I couldn't hear anything but faint laughing that felt like forever. But then the laughing stopped and the lights turned back on. I felt a bit better with the lights back on, but the downside was I could see a little in the storage room. I saw a small clown doll in the storage room, and my grandma hates clowns with a passion and wants nothing to do with them. So why is there a clown doll? I have no idea. Then the lights turned on in the storage room. I saw red. It looked like blood all over the place. I screamed and blackened out. The next thing I knew, I was laying on the couch, my grandma looking at me and asking me if I was okay. I have no idea if it was real or a dream, but it sure as hell felt real. If you have any ideas, please let me know. This is a bit of a long story, but it's been my life for the last 14 years. Much more has happened, but the story is already long enough. Throughout my childhood, I've experienced a few encounters or other unexplainable events. My mom, sisters, and I lived in a mountain range since 2010. The mountains have had a long history of being a vacation destination. Celebrities would come to ski in the winter or lounge by the lake in the summer. It's been that way for 100 years. Before it was a vacation spot, it was a gold rush town. And before that, it was inhabited by Native Americans. Needless to say, this place is old and has lots of history. My mom owns a thrift store where she receives hundreds of donations a week, from brand new, never been worn clothes to old and antique home decor. Owning a thrift store means we got our first pick of the items before we put them for sale. Probably most of our decorations, paintings, and home furnishings came from the thrift store. A lot of these items were old, and we don't know their history or of the owners. Anyways, we moved around a lot in this town. House to house, never staying anywhere that long. Thrift stores don't make someone rich. So, a bit of context. My room was on the bottom floor of the house, with its own staircase leading down to it. Yes, I know this house sounds massive. That's just how a lot of houses are in the mountains. Multi-level. My first encounter was one morning I was getting ready for school, and at the bottom of the staircase, there was a person standing there. In broad daylight, I couldn't see any features or even tell you what they were wearing. It was just a dark figure standing there. I was fully awake, looking at it. Just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. No explanation. Later that night, I told my older sister about what I had seen. She said we can cleanse the house and my room. We did a cleaning spell. She's a white witch for reference. And as soon as the spell was done, I got a bloody nose. I'm not saying that was related or anything. It was just one hell of a scary coincidence for a 14-year-old boy. Throughout the next few months, my family and I would experience other things in the house, like incoherent whispering or sounds like someone was in the house when no one was out of bed in the middle of the night. We would also often smell cigar smoke, even though none of us smoked cigars. Our closest neighbor was far away in this backwoods mountain road. All things we can't explain. We moved to the next house, where we lived for 5 years. In that house, I have witnessed glass cups randomly exploding into a bunch of small shards all over the place. Doors opening and closing randomly, cups of water jumping into the air and falling to the ground. This is when I started to believe that the houses weren't haunted, but in fact an item we brought from the last house to the new one. In 2021, when I was 21, I moved out to the city and got an apartment with my older sister, leaving my mom and younger sister. I experienced nothing until 2022, when I helped my mom move into a new house. In late 2023, I was visiting them. Lights flicker and strange sounds, which is usual for old houses, because that's what most of these houses are in that area. Old. But it wasn't until my mom and I were talking in the kitchen that we watched items from an open pantry shelf fly across the room. If my mom didn't witness it with her own eyes, I doubt she would have believed me. The next day when I was home alone, my mom was at work and my sister was at cheer practice. Someone called my name. I heard it loud and clear coming from inside the house. I have no explanation. In early 2024, I went back and visited it again. I was in our guest room at 3 a.m. on my phone before sleeping, when the closed door swung open. I watched it for a minute or two before I heard knocking on said door. It was sporadic, and every time I tried to record the knocking, it would stop. It went on for 15 to 20 minutes. I was ready to go to bed now, so I politely asked it to stop so I can sleep. And it did. I think my mom brought home a haunted item from her thrift store, and whatever it is attached to has come with us from house to house. I wish I knew what it was connected to, but we have so many old chests and lamps and paintings and who knows what else. All I know is that it's never directly tried to hurt us, and I'm okay with that. When I was trying to go to sleep last night, around 11 or 12 p.m., I suddenly heard a faint, weird noise coming from inside our room, or just outside our open window. It was unintelligible, but in my head I thought it was just my boyfriend watching a video on his phone. It sounded like when someone is running in a horror movie and there is music that's actually just symbols being bashed over and over. Like horror movie music that doesn't resemble music at all. Just noise made by instruments meant to induce anxiety and unease. After like 20 seconds, I thought to myself, geez, that sound is giving me physical anxiety. Like my chest is being pressed on. I hope he skips to the next video soon. I won't say anything even though I want to complain. And right then, my boyfriend sat up and said while sounding very worried, "Is that a girl?" I, thinking he saw a girl, turned on my flashlight right away. That's when the sound stopped and I asked what he meant. He heard the noise too, but to him it sounded like it was a girl screaming in a contorted fake way. His phone was dead the whole time. It wasn't coming from either of our devices. He said he also thought it was weird, but for some reason didn't want to say anything. And that he also felt anxious pressure on his chest when it started. We both immediately started tearing up when we told each other what we heard. This happens to me all the time when exchanging ghost stories with people. Although I assume it's a natural anxious response. That doesn't explain why we both felt so weird about that noise before suspecting it was paranormal. When we both assumed it was just coming from each other's phone. Never found out what it was. Our neighbors were all inside and sleeping. I didn't hear any doors or footsteps to indicate that anyone was outside whatsoever. Is this something anyone else has experienced? So, what did you think of the stories? Have you ever felt anything like this? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell icon to stay up to date on more videos. If you have any stories like this, join the Discord or subreddit. Go ahead and submit it, and it could be in an upcoming video. All links are in the description below. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.